All right. Yeah, so the next section we're going to now is to quickly look at the basic introduction to GitHub. I'm not going to go into the complex. GitHub is very wide and it can go as complex as you want it to go. Using GitHub actions, CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery, and all of that. But we won't go into all of that because this is a foundational class. So what I'm just going to introduce you to in GitHub is the basic way of pushing your code to a repo. That's all. How to add, commit, and stage your changes and all of that. So for those who are already used to this, don't be bored. Just follow us and kind of endure all these foundational things. I know you guys are ahead of us, but just manage, right? So the first thing you want to do is to create an account on GitHub, right? So go to github.com. If you don't have an account already and you are here, just go to github.com and create an account. It's when you go to github.com and you are not logged in, it's going to take you to the home page, something similar to this. It's going to bring you to the home page, something similar to what I'm showing you now. This one is going to bring you to this fantastic world that rotates, telling you where GitHub is being used all over the world at the moment, and they're committing codes everywhere, every second, every minute. So all these things you see on this thing. So someone is committing here, someone is committing a code base somewhere, Como 2 hours ago in Portland, in London, Vegas, Las Vegas. So anyway, I love this thing. I always love to see this funny word map of people writing code everywhere in the world every second. All right, so go to sign up, and then you create an account for yourself. You can sign up with your Google, you can sign up with Facebook, I think, or you can use your email. It's going to walk you through. It's more like an automated way of registration here. So you type in your email and all of that. So that's it. So I'm not going to bore you with that. So just sign up. Once you sign up, you get to your login page like this. So you have a page like this once you've signed up and you've logged in, right? And then you have to create a new repository. So what's a repository and why do we need a repository? The reason is that when you are working on a code base, when you are building an application, usually even if you are working as an individual or as a one-man solo soldier building an application, let me say, for example, I wrote something, let me see. So let's say this is an application, right, that I'm building. And then somebody has made a request to me and says something is not working. So let's say, let me see now. Somebody has made a request. So I've written something and I've built something and somebody says, oh, maybe this is one of my clients, and it says, oh, guy, this thing is not working, it's not doing this, it's not doing that. I see duplicates. I need to come to my code and then I need to make those changes, make those corrections in my code base, right? After making those corrections, I need to be able to push that change to the repo and then pull it from the server. Why do I need to do that? The reason why I need to do that is that I don't want to try to remember what I changed the last time I came to this code, because your code base can grow so big that, as a matter of fact, at the point, there's some code that I've written in the past that if I this one in particular that I'm looking at now, I did this about some 3 years ago, right? And the person brought it back very late last month. And if I have not used a repository to manage this like 3-4 years ago, as a matter of fact, I did not remember some of the things in this code again. I did not remember, honestly. So what I had to do is go to my comments and go to my code base and start checking what some of the things I left there for myself. You can see the way I write my code. So some of the things I would say, check that all files I created first before. So I leave comments here and there to tell myself, well, because your code can be so big that you have over 100,000 lines of code, right? And then you get lost in your code base yourself. You wrote it, but after some time you get lost. So your repository allows you to manage changes, allows you to manage the versioning of your code, allows you to what else can it do for you? So allows you to also work with other people. So for example, when you are like, you can see on our IT Skills Center, we have over how many developers working on IT skills project, about 24 of them. So let's say, for example, this is a project that someone just pushed something here. So in this project now, several persons have worked on it. So there is a team lead who is Adebayo, for example, who gets to review the code base from other people. So you can see all the people that are contributing to this code base that have at one point or the other push something to this code. So everybody is working on, so somebody might be working on the button. So let's imagine that this page you are looking at on this screen now, this GitHub page is a project that you're supposed to build. Like we're going to be building the Google landing page. So this button, it's possible that is someone's task. all this button here is given to someone to build. So when he builds this button as a component or as a React component, he needs to submit this and push this thing so that other people that needs to now, maybe somebody else is building all these cards or all this text. So they need to merge their code together. That's where we refer to something as code merging. So you need to merge this button with somebody else's code, and before everything is put together to become a whole website. So that's the reason for a repository. So a repository allows us to manage changes. As an individual, you can track your changes, you can revert back to an old commit. So if, for example, this code, for example, was green yesterday, and the client comes back and say, no, we don't want this code to be curved edge anymore. We want it to be a sharp edge, no border radius, make it sharp, straight edge. Then we go to the code, we make that change. And then 2 days after, next week, he comes back and say, no, revert it back to that border radius that was there before. It looks fine. Our customers are saying they want it to be curved. You don't have to, do that work again. You can just go back to your code, branch out to the, locate the old commit that you did like 7 days ago, for example, branch into that, create a new branch into that particular commit, and then revert back to that commit. You can do a Git rebase. Like, you understand all these things. I'm just giving you the reason why we use GitHub, right? So let's get started into the reality of this. So I'm going to create a new repository. So for you, after registering, you can either create a new repository on this plus sign here, a new repository here, and then you can type your repo name or repository name. So I'm going to call this foundational class, for example. That's our repository name. Or let's just call it foundational. So these are foundational class, and this is where I'm going to be pushing my own code. So I'm going to make it private. I'm going to make it private for now. And then I'm going to, so that's all I want to do. So if you make it private, means that only you and your team, or only you and those who give access can access this repository. If you make it public, it means anybody on the internet can make a commit and push something to this code base or to this repository, even though you still have to merge it yourself or accept it into your code base, but they can access it, they can join and contribute towards that repository. That's what public means, right? So I'm going to make this private because I don't want anybody on the internet just contributing to my code base. So I'm going to create a repository now. So once I've created that repository now, what I'm going to do next is that it's going to give me a quick setup, which is where we are going. So this is a set of instructions that you need to run on your command line, which is your git bash, to quickly connect. So like I said, our code is written locally on our system, right? But we want to push that code written on our system to a repository online. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go into my, let me open a new folder here. So I'm going to open that my foundational class project. I told you that you should create a foundational class project, right? So open this foundational class project. Let me open folder. Go into your desktop and open this foundational class project, which is your working folder. Once you open that, VS Code will load the entire folder for you. Once it's load the entire folder for you, it will look something like this, right? It will look something like this. Then all you need to do is that you need to initiate a Git into this repository, or into this folder rather. You need to initiate a Git, meaning that you want Git now to be able to manage, just the way we introduced Surge. We wrote Surge, and then Surge is able to connect to this folder and launch it on the internet. The same thing. We need to introduce Git to this folder, telling Git that this is our project working folder, and I want you to track what I am doing in this folder, track my changes, and help me push to the repo. So how do you do that? If you go back to your quick setup screen that you just got when you created a new repository, you have the first line of code that says git init. That is the first line of code you need to run. So I'm going to go into my terminal. This is my terminal here. I'm going to bring it up. I can use git bash also if I want to. I can use my git bash to also do the same thing. But when I'm using git, I prefer to, I think I use any of them though, whichever suits me, but this is closer to me. So I'm going to run it here, new terminal for my VS Code, which is going to open up down here, right? So this is my terminal down here. I'm going to switch to git bash. So there are several terminals here, all the terminal available on my system. I have a PowerShell, which is what which is the one Lawan was referring to, the one for Node.js itself. PowerShell is the terminal for Node.js. Git bash is the one we install. Command prompt is the one that comes with Windows by default, and some other ones like that. So I'm going to change to my git bash. So I have two terminals open here, PowerShell and git bash. I prefer git bash. So I'm running git bash inside my VS Code, right? So how I did that was this plus sign here. You can switch between any of them, right? So now inside this place, the first command we want to run, don't forget, is git init. So I'm going to, while I'm inside, don't forget that, look at where I am. The location is that I am inside my foundational class folder. Don't go and run this command on your desktop or on another folder. Make sure that you are right inside foundational class. And the way I got into this foundational class was that I did file open folder, and I opened that folder directly, which is the foundational class folder. So I'm going to run git init. And once I do that, you can see it says initialize empty git repository within my foundational class folder. So if you go back to that foundational class folder now, you will see a new folder called git has been added. So this git now is the warrior, is the almighty git that will be tracking all your changes and redoing all the magic. All right, so now that is done, the next command we want to run is git add. I'm not going to run this add readme.md. I don't need that. I'm going to just tell you git add dot. Git add dot means that it should, let me first of all run something for you. Git status. When I run git status tells me all the files that I currently have that Git is not aware of or Git is not tracking. So you can see this now. When I run Git status, it tells me some things. It tells me I am on branch master. That's the first instruction. When I ran Git status, it told me that I am on branch master, and you can also see in front here, because with time, I will not waste time explaining branches now, but with time after this class, you will understand more about branches. But just know tonight that I am on branch master, right? That's the first thing. Then it says no commit yet. That means I've not committed anything to my Git. Then it tells me a list of all my files that have not been tracked, meaning that Git is not tracking any of this. But it tells me how to add them. Use git add, then the name of the file to include in what you want to be committed, right? And then nothing added to commit, but on track, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm going to do now is I want to track all of these files. So what I'm going to do is to write git add dot. Git add dot. Git add dot means that I want it to include all these files. I want them to be tracked. So dot means all. But if I wanted to track only one of them, I can mention the name. I can do git trap example1.html. I can do git add index.html. I can do index git add lecture1.html. But that's waste of time, because it's not only one I wanted to track. I wanted to track every one of them. But there's some situation where you don't want your Git to track all your files, especially like if you are doing a React project or a React JS or any JavaScript project or JavaScript framework, Nest.js and all of that. You don't want to track your vendor folder. It's very bad habit to track your vendor folder. You don't want to track your node modules. Node modules are very heavy and they vary based on systems. So you don't want to track your node module. So that's when it becomes handy to track only specific files. So you can ignore. There's something called git ignore. So you can list that your Git should not track your node modules. Well, you get to know all of that. Let me just skip all of that for now. So I'm going to click git add dot. When I do git add dot, it tells me that nothing happened, but actually it has added all of this. If you go here, this is my source control on VS Code. There is this third tab that tells you what is happening to your Git. So you can see now when I run my git add dot, it tells me that all these files have been added. That's what A means. A means I wish I had opened this before. If I opened this before when I ran git status, all of this will be what will be there will be U means on track. When I run git add dot, it will switch to A, meaning that it has been added. Then when I run, look at the next command. After running git add, the next thing is git commit -m. Then you can give any message here. The message is usually in quotes. The message is what identifies exactly what changes we have made for that particular commit. So a commit is simply a particular stage in your code, meaning that you are trying to identify where you stop in your code, something like that. So let me switch to an existing project so that you can just see something I'm trying to say. So it will help you a lot to identify what you have done, because like I said, you might get to forget what you are doing at a particular point in time. So it's important that you use your commits to identify. I think you can already see. So if you see here now, see these are commit messages. So if I go to this project, you can see here, analytics on dashboard. This person added tryback analytics, notification logo change. He set cookie, tryback affiliate now use environment. So this person is using, these are the commit messages added to this commit. This is the commit number and all of that. So you don't worry, you get to know all of this. But I'm just showing you so that you get an idea of what I'm saying. So now let's go back to what we're doing. So git commit -m, and then the message you are trying to use to identify what you have just done in this page. So I'm going to go back to my code and say git commit -m, then the message. The message now is our starting git. That's the message I want to leave here, saying this, we're just starting git. So now you can see it runs, and then it's going to commit all these changes that we've just made. Then the next command we want to run is I want to create a new branch, because it's advisable not to be pushing to your master. Master is the default branch that every new repo comes with, right? So you need to create a new branch, like a working branch, so that you're not directly pushing all your changes to the master. You will understand why in another class, right? But create a new branch that identifies you uniquely. So I'm going to create a branch called main. So I'll just copy and paste that. Git branch -m and main. So when I've done that, it's going to create. So you can see that switch from master to main. I'm no longer on my master branch. I'm now on my main branch. The last thing you want to do is to connect your local git. So like all the things we've been doing so far are currently local on my system. Now we need to connect it to the repository, which is here. If you can see right now, see the address in my URL, github/itskillcenter/foundational. Right? This is the name of. I believe you can hear me, right?
Yeah, but we lost a bit.
We lost you disconnected.
When you said foundational, that was what we had last.
Oh, okay, amazing. All right, so let me just backtrack a little. So I said that I wanted to take note of what is currently on this page and the URL. The URL is foundational. By the time we push, so what we want to do now is to connect our local code base to this repository online on GitHub. We want to connect them together so that we'll be able to push, because without connecting it, without running this git remote add origin, we will not be able to push the code to this repo. So I'm going to copy this next line of code, and I'm going to paste it in my terminal. Then I'm going to run it. Then it's going to connect it. So now that that is done, it's connected. It's connected to the repo. Then the last thing I want to do, keep your eye on this page. When I refresh this page after pushing, I'm going to run this last line, and I'm going to refresh, and you see that everything we have in this foundational folder will automatically appear on this same page here. So let me go to our terminal, and I'm going to run our push. So the last command is git push -u, which is the user origin main. So I'm pushing to this branch main on the repo. So it's going to load for quite a bit, about 10 seconds, and then it's going to push everything to main. And then you can see everything on my system has now been pushed to the branch main online. So if I go back to the repo and I refresh, you get to see everything in my local folder right here. So that is how Git works. So now we've been able to create a new repo, and you can see my commit message. That is the message I wrote text, started Git, right? So, and we have all our local stuff here. So all I need to do now is that if I open this guy, example 1, for example, and I scroll down a bit, as you can see here, I scroll down a bit. What we have here is just a simple HTML code here, right? If I go to my local file and I make some changes, let me go back here, go to example 1, scroll down a bit, and I make a bit of changes to my code base here. Let's say welcome back to our class, and I save this, right? And I go to my terminal, see what happens, and I do git status. You see that it tells me that I've modified a particular file called example 1, which is what I just changed now. So that means it's saying that Git is now tracking our code. So any change I make to any of my files, Git will be aware of it. And it allows me to, not try to remember anything, because now that Git is tracking it, Git becomes my memory. Git becomes my my reminder sort of, so I can use it to track any change I'm making. So to add this new change I've just made now to my code base, I will run git add dot, then git commit again, -m, then the new message. So I can say I updated example 1 with header. I updated example 1 welcome message, something like that, and then that's my commit. So it tells me one file change, one insertion, one deletion. Then I do git push origin main, and then I push that back to the repo, and then that's how you do it. So these are the basic commands that you need to learn tonight. Git add, git commit, git push, right? Git add, git commit, git push, git status. If I check git status again now, it tells me that there is nothing to commit because I have committed. You can see there is nothing to commit because now everything has been committed. So if I go back to my repo and I go back to this file, this foundational class, you will see I will have 2 commits now. So you can see 2 commits. You can see 2 commits, and you can tell you exactly what was changed. We pushed all of these 6 minutes ago, and then we pushed something new to this guy 40 seconds ago, which is updated example welcome message. So that's how Git works. So now, if I open this commit, you see what I'm saying? So you can open this commit, you will see exactly what was changed. So I don't have to cram or remember anything I'm changing in my code, even if I've done this project 3, 4, 5 years ago. I can see that before now, I had welcome back as the code that was written on this line. And after I made a change, I now added to our class. That is how easy and how beautiful GitHub makes your work. So if I want to revert back to this one now, I can easily revert back. So I can switch in time, in memory, back to my old code base, and I can move forward. So I can change, and nobody needs to rely. Also, when you are working with other people in a project, like a group, if somebody has made a change like this, let's say, for example, another person made this change to this code base, the name of the person who made the change will be written there. So nobody can lie that is the one. So if somebody wrote a code that broke the entire project, everybody can see that it's this guy that wrote this code that broke our project. He's the one that introduced the bug. So that is the power of this. So it tells you who has done what and what has somebody written, and we can make those changes. So that's where I think it's 10 o'clock already. We might not be able to take our Google landing page today. So we'll stop here for today, and we'll take our next class. We'll take Google landing page in our next class. Let me just check what our calendar looks like before I take first one. Let me stop the recording quickly. What is this stuff?